Y'all look good.
Just audio?
I said it can be. I say
I
it.
took your scrunchie, by the way. One of them.
I can't hear shit.
Mhm.
It's ours.
Put your phone up on the side so it don't vibrate.
I should be on silent. I should be on silent.
Whenever you're ready.
Alright, I have no idea what this is about, so I'm
Do
just
you?
preparing myself.
You know the best part? Is that you don't.
I think you was gonna say that.
First of all, I want you to introduce. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Can you introduce yourself? Use whatever name you want. Whichever one. You can be married tonight. You want to be married? Yeah, I got married with me in here, incognito. Because in this interview, everybody doesn't have to reveal who they are if they don't want to. This is about matters of the heart. It's about talking about things that maybe can help us heal. Now, you think you know what we're here to talk about today?
With you, I have no idea.
I know.
I have no
I
idea.
know. So what I want to talk about today with you is if you had the opportunity today, you know, you hear a lot about people saying, what would you say to your younger self? What would you say to your younger self? But what would you say to your parents back then? Like, what would your 6-year-old or 7-year-old self say to your parents?
In hindsight, knowing what I know now, or as a 6-year-old?
Knowing what you know now about you. Like, what would you say to them that would help them understand who you are, who you're becoming, or... And the reason I ask you this is nothing personal to you. It's because I was writing the second book. And when I was writing the second book, I got to the part where I was talking a lot about my mom and how she was raised and things that she went through. And the things that she went through, she drilled in my head, you know, but the things she didn't go through, she never talked to me about. I was never talked to because she never had any clue about some things. And I have things I would say to my mom back then. Mom, they're touching me. And I would tell her, but I didn't. I chose not to. I didn't want to ruin her life. You know, I felt like I could handle it. So, if you were to be able to have a 6-year-old conversation with your parents, what would you say to them that you think would have made your life different?
I think my 6-year-old self would say, there's a lot in me that it's your responsibility to protect, because I can't do it by myself at 6. That would put that responsibility on them to carry the burden until I could carry it myself, to carry my purpose, or to nourish and cultivate what's in me before I could actually do it myself. But understand that this is an investment in a human being, and I don't think that they necessarily understood future. It was just a very present thing. So I would definitely just encourage them to think about the future, my purpose, what I'm going to become, and also how that could influence them. Like, this is it. You raise me, you teach me, you lead me, and then when I become, there's this reverse, right? You go back and you take care of your parents. If that's something, you know, you have to think futuristically, and that wasn't a thing for my parents. So,
wow, this is why I wanted to talk to you. Now, when you look at, since you're a mother of girls and boys, when you look at your daughters, what do you see in them? Like do you because you feel like you could have been poured more into, does that make you dive into your kids where you're just like making sure you overcompensate to make sure they don't have those feelings?
It doesn't. It makes me want to just be right, to just do right by them. And that means to whatever capacity each of them need. Because there's one that learns faster. She picks up on things by herself. She's self-taught. She's a self-teacher. And that's one of the values that I hold very highly for myself. So I don't always jump in for her because, I don't want to take away that characteristic of her being a self-learner or a self-teacher. But on the other hand, I have one that is not like that you have to dedicate more time and affection to or more time studying with. So it really depends on the capacity of the child. I don't overcompensate for my parents, but that also comes through getting over traumatic experiences. Because I'm no longer traumatized, I'm no longer driven by those traumatic experiences from childhood. So I don't feel like I need to overcompensate or I have to try to avoid being who my mother was, or those thoughts aren't a thing for me because of the healing from from those traumatic experiences.
Now, how do you feel you healed? What did you do to heal? Where did you go?
So
Sit back some, Kim. I'm sorry. Sit back some. Because you're blocking the light. All right, go ahead. I'm sorry.
So the process of healing is so multifaceted. There's so much that can go into it. Now, I initially went to Jesus Christ. Like, that was just, I found comfort in church. I found comfort in Christ. But I also learned that it's so much more than just spiritual health. There's emotional health, there's psychological health. There's nothing wrong with prayer and counseling, So I definitely, I had to take multiple roads to heal. I had to take multiple roads to forgive. But it's all worth it, no matter how many of those roads you have to take or you don't. Each road and each process is so different to overcome trauma that, my process may not be yours.
What made you realize that you needed healing? What made you go to Jesus Christ to get your healing?
Well, I think the question earlier about overcompensating really fit that time in my life. I felt like I was being driven, literally driven, by these traumatic experiences that, at the hands of my parents. And I felt myself like I wasn't myself. I literally was just trying not to be her. I didn't have anything outside of that. It was just, don't be her. And so when I noticed that my entire life was like driven by this one person, I knew it had to change. Like, I wanted to be a person. I wanted to be me. I wanted to feel something outside of feeling like I didn't want to be someone else.
Wow. Now, how old were you when you got to that point where you realized, okay, I need to go and get some help, like, now?
Yeah. So I think it became very present for me around 18 or 19.
That's so young.
It's so young. I knew, right, that I was traumatized for a while. I knew that I'd have to deal with, because I've always been kind of self-aware. So I knew I would have to deal with these things, but it kind of came to this culmination at about 18 when I realized, like, I had this epiphany, like, you're being driven by these experiences or these people who cause these experiences, and that's not an option for the rest of your life.
She's back, y'all. She's back.
This is my vein. I just be trying not to do it.
She is back. I'm so proud of you because we've all been through a lot since we've known each other and everything. So I just wanted, to say that I think you're a wonderful mom, and I'm glad you're back to feeling more like yourself, and and coming on down and trusting me for a couple minutes, never knowing what you're gonna get, never knowing what you're gonna get. But see, I think about you and your feelings. I'm not gonna put you out there. You put yourself out there when you want to.
I have no idea what that means. So
when you decide you don't want to be married. That was my name when I was born, Mary.
Was it really?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Right.
I'm glad that changed.
Me too. Oh my gosh.
Kim couldn't be Mary because Mary can't act like this. Okay, it just don't go with the name.
Act like what?
Awesome. Just so awesome. Just very wonderful.
Look, we're gonna do awesome things because you're back to you and doing things the way you want. Girlfriend, nothing's gonna hold you back.
So what kind of message would you get to these young women out here struggling, going through stuff?
If I had to talk to young women, I would say that, I mean, of course we're considering age range, but no matter what age, this general message would be that there is life outside of trauma. And when we're in it, it doesn't seem like it. And so for the younger children who don't have control, who can't control their circumstance or situation, it does get better one day. You do gain control one day. You do get to choose one day whether you're in it or whether you're not. For, the older, the teenagers, it's like you have a choice now. Like you now have a choice to be driven by what people did to you, which was not your fault, or to go on, move forward into purpose and to get over trauma. The earlier you start the process, the earlier you heal, the earlier you become, and the earlier you know yourself for you and not by what somebody did to you.
Real shit. So what would you say while you was in a situation made it easier for you to get through it? Like perception and being an example. Humbleness, what do you think helped you out the most?
It really depends on the stage of life. At this phase in my life, I can look back and say, now that I have this measure of compassion and empathy that I may not have had earlier on in life, I can look back and say, they didn't know any better, right? My parents treated me the way their parents treated them, and no one stopped to say, hey, something's wrong here. And I just happened to be born a victim of that generational, whatever you want to call it, toxicity almost.
Yeah.
So, I forgot the question.
What helps you get through?
So I would say get to know yourself and what you like. Get to know great coping mechanisms. Coping mechanisms simply mean that it alleviates the stress of the everyday life, right? It's a moment outside of chaos. So a lot of people think of coping mechanisms, they have to be very specific, like counting to 10 or taking a deep breath. Or no, you find what works for you and what truly makes you makes your soul happy. And you take moments away from all of that chaos that you can't control, and you control just a moment in your space doing what makes your soul happy.
Absolutely.
That's pretty awesome for someone so young and wise.
Right.
It is. It's so awesome because, like you said, it doesn't matter the age.
Right.
It doesn't matter. It's where you are in your life,
Yeah.
where you've been through. You still could be going through that trauma, but they got to learn the signs of trauma.
Exactly.
And understand that when you can't sleep, when you can't eat, when you can't hold a job, you can't even drive down the street, you can't even see what's in front of you because you are so wrapped up in all that you're experiencing,
Exactly.
have experienced. But for me, what I had to learn, which was my worst thing ever, was forgiveness. And I learned it by understanding that what someone had done to me, they had a story. And I found out what their story, someone told me their story, and I was like, wow, it was way worse, and I learned, that's when I truly learned, you never know anybody's story. When someone looks at you today, they see you smiling, oh, she's always so happy, and she's a great mom, I see her, getting her hustle on and doing what she has to do, and always looks nice, but they never know your story. They don't know what's beneath all this. And when we come into each other's lives, we don't know what stage we're in. We don't know if we're going through trauma. Half the time we're going through it, we don't even realize it.
Yeah.
It's just stress, everyday life. You think it's stress, but
yeah. And so I would also I would always recommend relation as a coping mechanism. Relationships that build you as a person. You don't need yes men in your life, right? When I'm traumatized, I don't need you to I guess nurture the trauma in me. I need you to say, hey, that sounds like trauma speaking. what can we do about that? You know, and so, but if you don't surround yourself with people, not just people, but people that are going to hold you accountable for being better, a better tomorrow, you know, a better self tomorrow than today, then you might not hear that. If you live in the trauma, you don't see it. You don't feel it. You need outside eyes to say, this is what this looks like to me. Let's talk about
that you can trust.
what you're going to do. Yeah.
That you actually
that
trust.
you can trust. There are people that you can trust, and I think it's a common misconception when we grow up in negative lives that you can't trust anyone. We learn that very early in life. I mean, very early on in life, and it's a misconception. It's a lie. There are people that are trustworthy. There are people that do not want to hurt you, harm you, or break you in any way. And you can find those people. It may take some hurts. It may take some pain. It may take some betrayal from some to learn who's trustworthy and who's not. But there are trustworthy people out here. And there are trustworthy people assigned to your life. It's just about giving those people a chance.
And accepting those blessings.
Yeah, because a lot of times,
blocking them.
Yeah. A lot of times, even when we're traumatized, we find ourselves kind of cutting things off, especially relationships, right? We don't trust people. We put up walls. And so we can block a lot of those blessings that are supposed to come to us because we don't know how to accept it. Or we don't think, you know what might actually be instilled in us from a very young age is that we're not worthy of it or we don't deserve it. And that's because we're not getting it from our parents and we're not getting the affirmation. And so something inside of us at a very young age says, you know what, I don't even need that, which is a lie, or I don't deserve that, or I'm not worthy of that. And so when a person comes along that doesn't want to break you, you don't even believe you're worthy of that person or that relationship. So you're less likely to accept it until you start the process of healing.
She's speechless.
Oh, she knows why I'm speechless.
All right, but yeah,
Can't
she might be just realizing it herself now. So, what's the signs of a toxic person? Do you think you've seen in common with toxic people you've encountered? Is there something that comes with them all?
Yeah, I'd say one-sided relationships. If you feel like it's always about that other person and they never have the ability to make it about you for a second, that's a toxic relationship. What else would I say is like a generally toxic relationship?
You know, the ones that have to be around you all the time, the controlling, the smothering, when they're not with you, they have to be calling you all the time.
Yeah.
The insecurity.
There's a word for that.
Oh. Yeah, I can't.
There's a word for that kind of relationship. Codependent.
Oh.
If somebody is codependent,
it's not necessarily both of them being codependent.
Exactly.
It's just that
no,
one.
but codependency can just be one person, not necessarily both of you. So the codependency is toxic. And people who drain your energy. If there's a person in your life that's not adding something to your life, and that doesn't have to be physical, that could be emotional, psychological, however it comes. If they're not adding to your life, they're taking away from it. And so you have to protect your space and your environment so that there's nothing being drained away. Because especially when we grow up a certain way, we need all the positivity and the positive energy that we can get. And so for someone to always be around smothering and draining that energy is unfair to us. And ultimately, you don't feel drained because you're drained. You feel drained because you're around this toxic person. So I definitely say draining.
And then those who lack accountability, who no matter what they do, but the deflectors but this one did that, the little snitches. This one did that, and I didn't do. Well, you made me do. Look what you made me. Oh my goodness, look what you made me do.
That's toxic. When people can't accept responsibility, not just for their actions, but for their person, for their character, for themselves.
For them.
That's toxic. That's toxic. And one thing about being in a toxic relationship like that is like, if I'm actively trying to pursue wholeness, I cannot be around someone who can't accept responsibility for themselves. That means we're always going to be on an uneven playing field. As I advance, you'll always be making excuses for yourself, and that then we'll never
how about the
even
pessimist? Man.
Yeah, pessimistic.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and you gotta.
Why don't you apply for that job? Oh, they're not gonna hire me. They're gonna hire Joe. I know right now.
If they never have anything good to say, they're toxic. They're toxic.
Lack of motivation.
Yeah, that's some good qualities.
You gotta drag them around in life by their collar.
Yeah.
Please go get a better job. Please go do this. Please go change those gray sweatpants.
It's like,
Not the gray sweatpants.
it really is a matter of self-awareness. Like, what do I have to offer and what do I need in life? And if everything I have to offer, you're taking that away, but you're not giving anything in return, then we have a definite problem in our relationship.
Let me tell you, when I was younger, I used to hear my mom on the phone with my aunts. And they would be sitting in the bed. She'd be smoking a cigarette, talking about every child, everybody's business. They just was gossiping about all, you know what that dumb girl did now? But what I heard them talking about was equally yoked. And they were talking about somebody else's in the family's business because, you know, I was a kid. And I always thought, you know, what's it? Okay, so I always heard it a lot in reference to church. So I'm like, oh, you're saying that his beliefs have to be your beliefs. And then I realized, oh, that's life. It's not just, okay, you got to have it in the beliefs, but when you got to be equally yoked, you need to bring the same, we need to be here. I'm not saying you got to be all up here with all this, but we have to have the same interests. We have to be compatible. And like you said, you cannot be draining me. We have to meet midway with this thing. Somehow it has to, you know, we just can't be consuming all of one person.
Right. Yeah.
Like you said, draining everything from them.
Yeah.
And then I realized, I said, oh, equally, I get it now. I get it.
That's very important to have somebody that's on your level, that's going to understand you to some capacity, even if it's just because we are in the same generation. You may not have gone through what I've gone through, but you can relate because we have something in common. However, I believe that as you grow and as you get older, you need to surround yourself with different people. And so, you know, it's a saying that you have someone that can learn from you, someone that's on your level, and someone that you can learn from. And so you're always drawing and you're always giving. Now, when we speak directly to trauma, though, that's a place of wholeness. That the place that you can not only receive, but that you can pour. But if you don't get to that place of wholeness, you have nothing to pour and you have no capacity to receive, and that's the problem. So that's in another phase of life. Once we walk through the process of getting over our trauma and being whole as a person. So,
which is why you need those outlets so that you can release that pressure.
Yeah.
And make room for more to come in. Like you said, once that gallon jug is full, it's full. It's done.
Right. Exactly.
You cannot receive anything that you're supposed to get. But you go and poke a hole in that jug every once in a while, let a little bit of that out, then all that goodness can pour in.
And you know you learn later on that like you don't have to be traumatized. After we get over all of the trauma that we didn't have control over, you know, in childhood and maybe growing up in teenagehood, you learn that you can choose not to be affected by everything. As a child, you're affected. It's natural. It comes very natural, right? But as an adult, once you get to a place of wholeness, you understand, like, I don't have to allow this thing to keep me stuck or complacent or stagnant. Everybody else goes on, the world goes on, but I don't have to be stuck by this situation or circumstance. And so you begin to take on this control with self-awareness of your own life and your own person and what can enter into your heart and what does not have to. So, you know, your skin changes. You get thicker skin, and not in a negative way. You get thicker skin. You're able to hold more, even when it comes to pain, or to assess more when it comes to pain, to release more when it comes to pain, if you learn how to be, you know, self-aware and definitely.
But without those traumas, you wouldn't be who you are today.
And I think that's what makes it hard for people to accept. But when you accept that truth, you accept it all under purpose. Like this, I am who I am, and I wouldn't be this person without this experience. Be it positive or negative, I would not be who I am today without that experience. So would I really give it up?
Like which one? You know, you'd be like, okay, now this one caused this, but in the whole, they all put together so that you could be strong.
Yes.
If you did have people holding your hand all the time, then you may have grown to be one of those dependent women that you don't admire.
Right.
Waiting for somebody else to come along and do this for me and do that for me. Instead of being a go-getter and going out and showing your young ladies and your men that if you want something, you have to get it.
Yeah, you have to go after
Nobody's
it.
just going to hand it to you.
Right. Yeah, but that's like that's really up to you to learn. Like even with the trauma, like no one's gonna hand you anything, and that's including healing. No one hands it to you, and it doesn't come easy, but it's worth pursuit.
Definitely.
Anything that's worth having is worth pursuit.
Yeah. And with that, we're going to wrap this up. I want to thank you for stopping through.
Thanks for the invite.
All right, you can wrap us up.
Damn.
And my they should have let me as a freshman be on no daggone campus. And my boyfriend was in Bowie. It was 30 minutes. I was on 95, 97. It was back then. It was Route 3 every day. I stayed at Bowie. Yeah, a hot mess. Happy all peasy. I mean, it would be a mess, a straight mess. But yeah, that was yeah. And then I took those classes and I had to take calculus.
Oh yeah, take the labels off y'all tea.
So just sit over.
Oh well, yeah, that'll work too.
So
Copyright infringements.
Notice yourself.
yeah, we have to be correct. So, so I left college and went to Virginia with my girlfriend. She's like, "Come on, let's go to Control Data Institute."
Man.
And I said, "Awesome," because I can go and take what I want. What bothered me about college was taking all those classes I didn't need for 2 years. And I'm like, I don't need it. I took yoga. But let me tell you, that was the best class. Because after being out at Bowie all night,
Right.
you know, then I had to, you know, get some rest. And that was 8 o'clock in the morning. I'm racing up the road. I'm like, I can't wait to get to this class. Because he stretched you out and he had a deep, calming voice. Big old beard. He dressed like a yoga man. Real thin. And he talked to us. And I was knocked out on that mat. Just and raise this and lower it. Your fingers. And I'd be like, and he would let us sleep for like 10 minutes. I swear it's the best sleep I ever had. Never could find that again. The best. But yeah, that was my college life. So we went to when we went to Control Data though, we got to take a Fortran, RPG2. What else did we take? I don't even know the rest of them because it was. We all sat at our apartment. We'd all go to our apartment afterwards, and we all write them together. And each person had a part that they did. I could do that. ADHD. Just give me one piece.
Right.
It's going to take me 3 times longer because I'm going to start backwards and work my way up, and then chop it up in the middle somewhere. But we'd sit around, we'd order pizza, turn our little black and white 13-inch TV on, because, you know, we were in an apartment Mom and Dad was paying for. So they split the rent, and we took a piece of furniture out of everybody's house.
Okay.
We had bunk beds out of her house. We had a couch out of my house.
Right.
And, yeah, we did that thing. We had yellow toilet paper. Wow.
Oh.
Yeah, yellow. Our bathroom was yellow. I
What
know you're jealous
Even
because y'all
the
didn't get to
toilet
have the yeast infections that the
jealous.
yellow toilet paper
Right,
caused.
yeah.
We were on fire. We were like, what the heck? How we both on fire? What is going on? I used to work at a pharmacy, and I got a discount. So we decided on the color, and I bought everything in that store that was that color. So we had a whole closet full of toilet paper that put us on fire, and we couldn't figure out what it was. We were on our phone with our mom. What is going on? I'm on fire. I got this going on. You better go to the doctor. Why we ain't been doing nothing? We've been working, studying, you know. Oh, y'all down there partying. No, we not. It's not Friday. You know, we not. That toilet paper, the doctor was like, well, are you using? We're like, yeah. What color? Yellow. Nobody used white back then. That was for the, you know, the uncool people. Yes, back then you went to the store and there was pastel blue, there was mint green, there was pink chiffon, and then if you really got a good store, Peach. I know what you're saying. You're saying, oh my God, Peach, really? Peach color Jordan? Peach. It was hard to find. I bet it would have lit us on fire even faster. The more to die, the more.
I'm ready to say them deep with colors.
Man,
Like,
we came home, we threw all that toilet. We were like, is it the water or, we lived over a dentist's office, so it was like weekends was quiet, but we were two people from Annapolis in Virginia. We didn't know nobody.
I
Nobody.
still had fun.
Did we have fun? Cause we were 10 minutes from DC. She came home she was one of those good daughters that came home every other weekend. I ain't never come home. They had to call me, can you come home and do it once a month? I came home for about 2 hours. Okay, I'm going.
Right.
An hour ride, but I'm coming home. I'm going. I gotta wash clothes, and you want me to do it during the day. You don't want me to go, I didn't have one in the house. We had to wash them in the laundromat. You could have brought them home. Thinking to myself, no.
You're right, I could have.
That's all that time I had to sit in the house. Taking them out of the washing machine and putting them in the dryer and no. So 2 hours, 10 to 12. That's it. That's all you get. That's it. So whatever you want to talk to me about, I'm on my way. I'll be there at 10.
And out at 12.
I'm out at 12. And when they got old, I would come over here twice a week. Tuesday nights, 5 to 7.
Still what time was it?
When Jeopardy came on, I had to go. I couldn't. I watched the other shows with them. I couldn't watch that one. And then Thursday night, same time. So they wash their clothes Thursday. And they'd have a cold Pepsi in the freezer for me. The minute they knew I was getting off, they put it in there.
That's real love.
I know, right? They didn't even drink Pepsi.
That's the real.
They kept it in here for me, but they couldn't put more than one in at a time because I would get a little carried away.
I could see that.
Especially if it's cold like that, I could just all the way down. But I know no more of that. Oh my goodness, we're saying names, aren't we? Do we have any rights, infringement rights? We're saying names.
That's you with your Pepsi.
Ooh, oh, you said it. You said it. You did it.
They had an ice cold soda for me. Right.
A pop.
Mm-hmm. So, Britt, when you were in school, where did you go?
Towson.
Did you live there?
Oh, you mean like when I was in undergrad? I stayed on campus. I didn't have a campus place. I stayed with my friend. She stayed on campus. So I stayed in her dorm room.
Okay, so you stayed on campus.
Yeah.
Okay.
Unofficially. It was the best time of my life.
Uncounted.
Was
Same
it?
type of deal. Like I wouldn't come home. Like I was like, I'm just living on campus. You don't live on campus. I do now.
And you just stayed there.
Man, it was the best thing. Cause she was a freshman when I was a sophomore. So my freshman year, I didn't stay on campus. I still lived at home. And as soon as she got to the school, I was like, hey, I'm going to your room. I was cool with her roommate and everything. She came home from class. I'm in there. I was cool with her roommate.
Real.
Oh, that is so awesome.
Yeah, it was amazing. That is the best years of my life.
Oh, wow.
Man.
Wow. It is. It is your first state of independence, away from your family.
Yes.
You sort of think you're protected. These days on college campuses,
Right.
you're not. But you're sort of in a bubble, so the folks feel kind of good thinking that you're on campus.
Yeah.
With me, well,
Right.
catch a speeding tickets, run up and down the road. They sort of feel like you're at campus. Like my mom would call me, I had a phone in my room.
Yeah.
Well, I called the room. I would take the phone off the hook. Nobody was getting, and we shared with
Right.
Sweet Mate. We shared that
Right.
phone. They'd be knocking on the door trying to get the phone back on. So what was the best part for you? Like, if you were to talk to someone younger, what advice would you give them about college life?
Again, it's gonna be the best years of your life. I think everybody should experience living on campus at least one semester, 1 year. It's that independence that you get from being at home. You really have to be accountable to yourself. Like nobody's gonna tell you to go to bed. Like aside from nobody telling you to do your homework, you have to be accountable to your schoolwork. But you just have that freedom to make your own decisions, to pick the right people to hang out with, to go to the right events. It's the community that comes from campus. Like everybody's there for the same reason. school and fun.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know,
Well,
nobody.
fun in school.
Right. Fun in school. I would say school first, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like you start to build, you start to learn what community is like outside of your home. I mean, I'm sure people might grow up with friends of the family, whatever, but it's just nothing like you said, it's that measure. Like, all right, I know I'm protected to a degree because this is a campus, but still you gotta make the right decisions, and sometimes you don't, and that's fun in itself because you learn from bad decisions, and I think that it really helps you get ready for the real world because that's what happens when you graduate. Nobody's gonna be telling you.
Nope. Nobody's gonna say go to bed.
Right, nobody's gonna go to bed.
Nobody's gonna set that alarm clock.
Right.
Nobody's knocking on your door. Hey, you get up.
Right.
Nope.
So yeah, I would tell younger people, I guess, to make sure that they experience it because it's nothing like any other time in your life.
It is not. It's nothing like it. Before them bills start hitting you, you still sort of out there doing your thing. You got some rules,
Right.
one or two, but you're not paying those bills every month. You're not worrying about, am I going to get evicted if I don't
Right.
pay this bill? I need to find another job within
Right.
2
You
weeks,
eating?
or you got a meal card,
Yes.
and then if you do go home, you're going to load you up with
right,
stuff.
exactly. You take
You
stuff
know.
around the house.
We had a refrigerator and a little hot plate in the room.
Oh yeah.
Pop-Tarts and a toaster.
Because when I ended up, because I stayed on campus for the rest of my time. When my friend, she ended up moving from like just two, like with one person in the room to like an apartment with 5 friends,
Mm-hmm.
and I lived there too, and that was amazing. Like grocery shopping, that's why I learned most of my life skills that I ended up using when I did move out of home. Like I knew what it was to grocery shopping, and like you
With
ain't got that much
$20.
or whatever, right? Like,
Uh-huh.
I knew what it meant to like make sure you was taking care of yourself. Laundry was my pet peeve. I hated the laundromat at the school.
Mhm.
So I definitely went home to wash my clothes. But you learn, like, different people experiences, like, people that not from the United States.
Mhm.
Like, all of that just was, like, a culture shock. It blew my mind. I was kind of sheltered as a child, so I was living my life.
Did you grow up in Baltimore?
I did.
Okay.